So the science, PubMed, they've been trying to, they do a lot of investigating and studies and research, right? But they've been very interested in trying to tie things either to the Bible or not to the Bible. One of those being the Canaanites. One of the worst group of people, but there were many others too, that God wanted wiped off the planet. And so the science, at least one paper I read, it believes that they found the genome for the Canaanites, or it's just really a lot of nonsense. My point is that I think the science knows there's a biblical, the biblical God is true. And every time they try to go and refute it, they can't. Because they fall back on this idea, we don't have evidence. We don't have evidence. Well, common sense is evidence, and you don't have it. So even if the whole Canaanite group was wiped out, the wicked one still rules this kingdom. So it doesn't take much. You get it into the Greek god stuff, which is where the medicine comes from, which is why you have the symbol of the serpent, which it was at one time a double serpent, apparently. And it doesn't go back to Moses. I was reading the history of the World Health Organizations and the medicines, serpent and the staff, and it goes back to your Greek mythology. It goes back to your Greek gods. Well, those would be all your wicked gods, because they're not gods. So when your medicine comes from there, I'm just saying, I've said so many times, the roots matter. Because where the roots go, if it's in wickedness, then it will eventually produce wickedness. It can't produce good. It's rooted in a foundation of wickedness. So the reason I bring this up about the Canaanites is because science way back, there's so many papers about the genome and the Canaanites, and they don't get it, because even if you wipe all of the Canaanites off the earth, because one of the papers was trying to disprove that, well, the Bible's wrong. All the Canaanites weren't wiped out. Well, first of all, you don't know that, but they're trying to say because of the genome, it's true. No. The wicked one rules this kingdom, which was the whole point to Jesus coming here, trying to save as many as he could, making you recognize where you're living, so that you could finish your race, and do it without falling into the hands of the Canaanites or many of the other types. So you don't need to have a lineage of that actual genome to live, for the Canaanite tradition and rituals to live on. The Canaanites were the worst. Really, there was a lot, but they're mentioned 150 times in the Bible. Because they didn't just abuse and hurt and destroy, they ate children alive. As soon as they were born, they were just beasts. So God was always trying to keep the people that he was trying to get to the promised land away from all of these groups. So when everybody thinks God is such an evil God because he wanted to wipe a whole country out, well, yeah, if they're eating babies, then you really want that to happen. You really want God to do that, because otherwise it will eventually infect your society, and slowly over time that culture will take over and it will become acceptable. And you'll think, of course that's okay. It's a free country. We can do whatever we want. Pedophilia is fine. That's what that whole Drag Time Story Hour is all about. It's been this slow push towards legalizing pedophilia. And then how far do you think it'll be until it's legal to just eat babies? Because that's how it does it. The Canaanites aren't out there in your face. They're everyday people. You don't even know them. You don't know them. You just don't know. It's not like you would know who they are. you can maybe get a good idea, especially your most famous. But that said, the wicked one controls this kingdom. So no matter how much the science wants to find genomes to certain things, they're never going to find it. They're never going to find the connections they want, which they don't want the connection. They want to keep disproving the Bible. They can't. They can't. And the very fact that they're trying so hard for so many years, I mean, since the very beginning, should tell you how true the Bible is. Even if every Canaanite, even if that entire culture was wiped off the planet, the wicked one still rules this kingdom, so it would still get infected, that culture, that type of behavior. Because that all comes from the wicked one. It did back when the Canaanites were the Canaanites. And that same type of culture and behavior comes in, and it comes in slowly. And that's what would happen to the Israelites. That's why God would get so angry. I mean, can you blame him? Because he wanted them to stay away from them. And then they wouldn't, and what would happen is they would fall in love with their women and marry them, and then they would eventually think, oh, these cultures are okay. You may think that's crazy and that you would never fall for that. Look at your world. Look at the world right now. Look at where we were to where we are now. There's actually people in society today that think that it's okay to do drag time story hour to children. Yeah, I said like a year ago, I said we're right there to where there's a bunch of people that would be okay with it, that pedophilia is okay. So that's the reason why God intervenes, is because he won't stand for. So he'll let your country fall into the hands of wickedness, but when the people themselves don't do anything to protect the children from the same type thing that was going on back when it all started, then God's wrath eventually comes down. And I'd say it's here. And I'd say it's most definitely exposing the falsities of the science.